Debbie Reynolds, Elizabeth Taylor, and Eddie Fisher. These three celebrities are massive names on their own, but they can also never be separated. Their connection began as a friendship and went downhill into a devastating affair. It shocked the world and became one of the most popular tabloid stories of all time. Keep watching as Debbie Reynolds confirms why Eddie Fisher left her for good. Before the affairs. Edwin Fisher was born in Philadelphia, August 10, 1928. He eventually moved to New York, and Eddie Cantor helped him become a radio star. He had 32 hit songs in his life, including Thinking of You, Anytime, I'm Yours, and Wish You Were Here. Debbie Reynolds was born August 1, 1932. She was discovered at a Miss Burbank pageant and soon became a movie icon in films like Singin' in the Rain and The Unsinkable Molly Brown. She met Elizabeth Taylor, who was already a major star, at age 17. They went to high school together on the MGM lot. She says she was in awe of her and that anyone who could say they weren't was lying or blind. The Elizabeth Taylor-Eddie Fisher affair. Debbie Reynolds and Eddie Fisher were married in 1955 and had their first daughter Carrie the next year. Frank Sinatra warned her that singers were never faithful and tried to persuade her to choose someone else. The couple went to events together and showed off their love. They called each other Prince and Princess, because that's what they were to the public. Early behind-the-scenes troubles hinted at their eventual downfall. He was often jealous of her success and even refused to talk to her when Tammy, a song she sang for the 1957 film Tammy and the Bachelor, hit the top of the charts. The couple also gained a friend in Elizabeth Taylor, who Debbie met as a teen. They went on double dates together. Debbie was the maid of honor and Eddie was the best man when Elizabeth married Mike Todd in 1957. They were such a close-knit group that Eddie and Debbie even named their second child after Elizabeth's third husband, Mike Todd. Everything changed when Mike suddenly died in a plane crash in 1958. Debbie encouraged Eddie to go comfort the new widow, but that choice changed her life forever. She always said she was the last person to find out about the affair. The tabloids had already started rumors about it. She even heard people whispering at events using Elizabeth and Eddie's names together. Confirmation of the rumors didn't come for a while. She was lonely one day while her husband was on tour and decided to call Elizabeth's hotel room. Eddie picked up the phone, and she knew immediately by the way he spoke that the two had been sleeping together. The affair also changed the public image of everyone involved. Elizabeth and Eddie were the home-wrecking villains, and Debbie was the innocent victim. It also affected their careers. Both Elizabeth and Debbie saw higher paychecks for their next movies. They even earned Oscar nominations during the affair. Eddie's singing career and variety show never recovered. He went from 17 top 10 songs at his peak to a downward spiral. Lucrative contracts dropped thanks to morality clauses, and his variety show was canceled in 1959. Debbie tried to ignore the affair for a full year. Her Christian background meant she didn't believe in divorce. She held off until Eddie and Elizabeth talked her into it in 1959. They had asked for her consent several times and told her she was keeping true love apart. She eventually gave in and believed they would have gotten married without her blessing. Eddie and Elizabeth were married the next day. Debbie still tried to warn her ex-husband that his new lover couldn't be faithful, and that's exactly what happened. Elizabeth left Eddie 5 years later and married Richard Burton after meeting him on the set of Cleopatra. The Elizabeth Taylor-Richard Burton affair. Elizabeth Taylor and Richard Burton began an affair that was so intense it slowed down the film. Eddie called home one night and Richard admitted exactly what he was doing. It allegedly made Eddie so upset he held her at gunpoint before walking away. Probably him. Elizabeth's second affair led to another divorce in 1964. Elizabeth divorced Richard in 1974, remarried him the next year, and then divorced him again the year after. Why Eddie left Debbie for good. Debbie was torn apart when she discovered all the rumors about Eddie and Elizabeth's affair were true. She hadn't expected her best friend to intentionally hurt her, and it was a heavier blow than anyone else could give her. Debbie understood how difficult it would have been for any man to resist Elizabeth's advances. She even said that no living woman was as beautiful as her. In a way, Debbie never gave herself enough credit. She was also a beautiful woman who never had trouble attracting a man. There was only one problem. She claims that all three of the men she married said she wasn't a, quote, very passionate woman. She claims many of the women she was friends with had what she lacked. Elizabeth Taylor, Ava Gardner, and Lana Turner craved and enjoyed talking about sex. She believes that was the kind of passion Eddie wanted and is the main reason he left her. Elizabeth was more sexually experienced. She had already had 3 husbands and 8 before her death. Debbie was a virgin when she met Eddie and never slept with anyone during her life other than her 3 husbands. There's another somewhat unexpected reason why Debbie Reynolds believes Eddie Fisher left her for good. She claims he always wanted to be just like Mike Todd. He suddenly took up drinking and smoking and changed his personality during the affair. It was what Elizabeth needed to overcome her grief, and she was attracted to it. The good news is Debbie had no regrets. She doesn't wish she'd had more sex and always preferred raising her children to pursuing men. She considered herself lucky despite all the struggles she had with love during her life and tried not to be bitter towards Eddie because he was the father of her children. Before we tell you more, be sure to give this video a like and subscribe to Facts First if you haven't already. An enduring friendship. The story of the love triangle between Debbie Reynolds, Elizabeth Taylor, and Eddie Fisher is more than a tragedy. It's also one of forgiveness and enduring friendship. The 2 women stayed apart and didn't speak for 7 years. Debbie and her husband at the time, Harry Carl, booked the Queen Elizabeth cruise ship in 1966. As if guided by fate, Elizabeth happened to be on the same ship with Richard Burton. They exchanged notes, had dinner, and began to talk like old times. Elizabeth and Debbie continued to talk after that, though they didn't visit each other in person. The friends developed an even deeper bond after meeting by chance again after a serious tragedy. They had both been to a Michael Jackson concert the day before the September 11th attacks, and Debbie was stranded. Elizabeth invited her into her hotel. Debbie later jokingly said it, quote, made up for the whole Eddie thing. The pair also managed to star in one final movie. Carrie Fisher wrote These Old Broads in 2011. It was semi-autobiographical, with their characters fighting over the same man. They only grew closer, and Elizabeth even made up with Todd and Carrie. She later wrote Debbie into her will, giving her a sapphire bracelet, necklace, and earrings. After the affairs. Eddie Fisher remarried 3 times after Elizabeth left him. The first was when he was 47. He married 21-year-old beauty queen Terry Richard, and they stayed together for only 10 months. He said in one of his autobiographies he only married Connie Stevens because she was pregnant. They had 2 girls, Jolie and Tricia. His final and longest-lasting marriage was to Chinese businesswoman Betty Lin. They lasted until she died. Eddie never managed to heal his career or public image. He never had a hit song again. His 2010 autobiography, Been There, Done That, spoke poorly about Debbie. Carrie was so offended, she threatened to change her name when she read it. Eddie died of complications from a hip surgery in 2010. He'll always have a place in the film and music scene, but the world will never forget his marriages or affair. Debbie's love life after Eddie was a bit more complicated because she never found a man who treated her right. Her first marriage was a matter of necessity after Eddie refused to pay child support. She wed shoe magnate Harry Carl in 1960, but he was a gambling addict and alcoholic who left her with no money and cheated on her. They divorced in 1973. Richard Hamlet was no better. He tricked her into a risky real estate deal and gambled the rest of her money away, leaving her with more debt. His violent streak even made her fear for her life. When he took her to the balcony of a hotel one night, all she could think about was him throwing her off to get her $1 million life insurance policy. They divorced in 1996. Debbie Reynolds died one day after her daughter Carrie on December 28, 2016 after a sudden stroke. Her image of pure innocence isn't likely to fade either. By the end of her life, she no longer cared what the public thought of her. Now it's time to hear from you. Which part of the story was most surprising? Let us know in the comments section below. And before you go, make sure you give this video a like and subscribe to Facts First if you haven't already. Click the bell icon to stay updated on all our latest content.